all across America and around the world. This is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio.
Good day. I'm Jim Fossone. I'm the officer of the deck today here on Veterans Radio, and thanks for joining us. We've got some interesting stories for you. We always want to remind you you can find more about Veterans Radio at its Facebook site or at the web, veteransradio.org, where we're on the web 24/7. You can find a lot of our podcasts there as well. We post new ones every Tuesday, so you can get a new story, a new interview, something you didn't know before by going to veteransradio.org. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. First up, we want to thank Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans fights for veterans' disability rights all across the nation. You can reach them at 800-693-4800 or on the web at legalhelpforveterans.com. We just want to remind you that Veterans Radio podcasts are available on all your favorite streaming platforms, including RSS.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Rees Across America Radio. So wherever you are, you can find us, whether it's on your mobile phone or your computer or your laptop, your tablet. But listen in to Veterans Radio Podcasts. We post something new every week, and you're going to find it informative. Today we're going to have a couple of interviews that I think, again, you'll be interested in. One, we're going to talk to a Marine relative to his Trek, T-R-E-K, Trek Coffee, and he's going to walk 500 miles raising money to support veteran causes. So I don't know if you're ready for that kind of walk, but he is. So we'll hear that. And then we're going to have a interview with another sort of trek in life, I suppose, as we talk to a Navy officer who transitioned from enlisted to officer, but also transitioned from a woman to a man while in the Navy. So both very interesting stories to talk about here on Veterans Radio. We want to welcome to Veterans Radio today Lawrence Miller, U.S. Marine Recon, but we're going to talk about one of his businesses and activity he's got coming up. Lawrence, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
How did a nice kid like you end up in the Marines?
That's a great question. I think we all ask ourselves as we get older, what made us do that?
What was I thinking, right? Yeah.
I played hockey my entire, it was a part of my childhood, and there came a point where I was pretty good. I had a few different opportunities, and I got to an age where I just wanted to push myself mentally and physically and kind of see, who I was made of as a man, both mentally and physically. And I chose to go the U.S. reconnaissance route. So,
well, it's a multi-step process, right? You just got to get into the Marine Corps, get yourself through basic training, and then get yourself into a recon position. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Well, actually, I was contract recon. So how I was set up was I had to go through the boot camp SOI and graduate at all those levels. And if I didn't graduate from reconnaissance school, then I would be put back to 0311 infantry.
And you participated, you were in the Marines, if you will, I think I saw from 07 to 2011?
Yes, sir.
And tell us a little bit about your military experiences.
The best way to sum that up is I love my job. I love the teams, and I was, it definitely pushes you to another level to see how to operate, the camaraderie that you build, with your teammates who, come from all over the country, the different tasks, the different, just the levels of training and operational standpoints and the standards you need to be at to be in the teams.
So you got through all that, and then your contract period, I think about 4 years ran out, and did you have a specific plan of where you were going next, or what are you going to do next? What was the transitional process?
I just ended back home here in Michigan, and I really didn't have a plan. I didn't have a plan. So I had some injuries I had to deal with, some stuff that I incurred while I was serving. So I guess that began that process on how to address those and figure out, how to move forward with my life.
Somewhere along the line, you said, I think I'm going to start a business and I'm going to use some of the profits to help veterans. That's not like what everybody thinks of doing when they get out, right? It's hard enough making the transition. Business enterprises are tough to start. Talk to us a little bit about what your mindset was and that startup process to be a business owner rather than a recon Marine.
I guess that's where it really started about 2 years ago. I went through, really probably the darkest periods of my time. And, that's when I originated it. I did last year over Memorial Day. I trekked 200 miles in 12 days, West Coast to East Coast, from St. Joe to Royal Oaks annual Memorial Day parade, just bringing awareness towards veteran isolation and crisis issues. One of the hardest factors for veterans is to admit that they need help. And when they do admit they need help, it's used against you legally or professionally. You get labeled and stereotyped as this crazy ex-military guy, or there's ramifications if you're going through a divorce where, your kids are used against you because you served in the U.S. military. So there's a whole nother complexities of things where veterans have to address, and you have no idea how to comprehend those or who to go to based upon, your service being used against you. So after that, on Memorial Day, I decided to found Trek for Vets Coffee on the premise that conversation happens over a good cup of coffee, where some of the proceeds go to regenerative medicine treatments for veterans and their families, and also standing up a veteran crisis response team. So there's two components of it. And we're a service disabled veteran-owned small business. But the first prong is a regenerative medicine standpoint. I've been sober for 10 years, haven't taken a pill, and the biggest part of that is providers wanting to shove pills down your throat or whatever it may be, and you become a zombie, and individually you're like, this isn't me. There has to be another way. So we've partnered with a regenerative medicine clinic in Boulder, Colorado called Dynamic Athlete. It's the only regenerative medicine clinic in the country that can treat a male or female from head to toe, with therapies such as stem cells, PRP, shockwave, EMTT, ExoMind, which repairs the left lobe of the brain on a cellular level to help with TBIs, PTSD, and trauma, and then MCELA. And the doctor who we've partnered with is the only dual sport Team USA hockey and U.S. soccer doctor in the country. He's a key opinion leader in the regenerative medicine space. We ran 2 clinics last year in fiscal year 2025, where we treated 60 live patients, whether they be military veterans, their families, LEOs, or firefighters, and they all receive free medical treatment. This year, we're doing 4 of those. We did 1 in January, and through this time, we were able to send 5 veterans from the Metro Detroit area. They received free medical treatment. Their hotel was paid for. All their food was paid for. So with the growth, we hope to send more and more veterans, military, and their family members from the Michigan area.
Wow, that's a fantastic mission. I have to say, Lawrence, your website doesn't do you justice because it doesn't talk enough about this area of regenerative medicine. And the website is trek4vetscoffee.com, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. But this is not unusual for guys when they get out and transition. They've had some disabilities from the service, that it takes years and to kind of get back on the path they want to be. And I'm not talking a year or two. Sometimes it takes, I often say it takes 6. It sounds like it took you kind of a number of years to get on the path. As you tell us, you're now 10 years sober and really more focused on maybe the right things. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, it took me over a decade. Yep.
And I think it's important for people to know that, whether it's family or friends or the veterans themselves. Don't give up on the guy. It's going to take a while, and many people, it takes that 6 to 10 years. I mean, it just is.
Absolutely. And I think when you come back, you're used to a team, and you come back to the civilian sector, and you almost become a solo operator, and life happens. You get married or have kids, go divorce, different jobs, but you're constantly looking for that trust and bond that you had while you were serving. And that's not easy to replicate here, just based upon human nature. So it takes you a long time to figure those things out and who to seek to, mentors to find, friends, camaraderie, people you can trust. And that's the biggest thing, is finding a tribe and a community where you can trust and go and seek out guidance and help.
Well, and I hear this from a lot of vets. We've been doing this for 20 years. We've talked to a lot of guys with this issue of like, I feel isolated because I came back home. Maybe it's rural, maybe it's a state that doesn't have a lot of active duty or no active duty bases, and you really miss that team. And you were a guy who came out of hockey teams. Teams was really at the core of what you were looking for, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've always been a team guy, whether I was playing hockey or I was, in a 6-man team, and then coming back. And I've shared this multiple times. It's a point where you have that team aspect where that team elevates you to be a better human being, a better operator, a better husband, a better father. But also, you can lean on that team when you're not at your best, because you know that they have your back.
And they can call you out when you're being a dumbass, right? Yeah. I'm looking for a word I can use on 100%. The air. But and that's important. I think we all need that, to sometimes be called out and say, hey, you're better than this. You can do better.
Absolutely.
So let's go back to this idea of, okay, I've been out for quite a while now. I'm going to start a small business. Small businesses are not easy to start. Talk to us about that.
No, they're not. And especially in the service disabled area. It's more about the mission, task, and purpose. Sharing, conversation through a good cup of coffee. It's about opening up those lines of communication and being able to create those conversations and connect with more people, to start that business and have a clear message of what our company is, what our mission is, what purpose we're doing in these communities, and how we're trying to help.
And you've got a great motto that I want you to repeat for our Veterans Radio audience. We're talking to Lawrence Miller, who's a Marine Recon disabled veteran. But talk to us about the motto for Trek for Vets Coffee.
Sip, serve, and support. Really 3 simple ideas. As you drink our coffee, it creates those communication channels to figure out how we can serve others, and through those conversations, how we support through that service. Just trying to keep it very simple, not trying to reinvent any wheels, and just really focusing in on veteran isolation and crisis issues and how we can while we're drinking coffee, serve those communities and support those families.
And Truck for Vets is a 501c3 nonprofit, I should point out, and that 20% of the net profits from every bag of coffee goes to support that nonprofit, which is supporting these various programs to help veterans in crisis and deal with the issues that a lot of vets face in transition. You've kind of taken this, let me start here. When did you start the coffee business?
I started that Labor Day of this year.
So kind of a brand new thing, and I saw it on National Veterans Business Development Council, NVBDC.org's MVO Task Force article about this, and I said, I got to talk to this guy. And that's what NVBDC does pretty well, is networking, putting people together. So are you a certified veteran-owned business?
Yes, sir. We are a service-disabled veteran-owned small business through the NVBDC.
And one of the things that you get with that is this broader network of folks who like-minded folks, and that's how we get connected here, through somebody with that arrangement. But talk about the trek that you have coming up in 2026, which is, I think I said at the outset, now it's 500 miles. What the hell were you thinking?
Well, at the end of last year's trek, I spoke at the Memorial Day ceremony here in Royal Oak, Michigan, and it was just the ability to connect with people along the way. I just wanted to do something bigger to have more reach here in the state of Michigan. So we're doing 500 miles in 25 days and going through 100 different cities. With each day, we're going to memorialize 20 fallen warriors who sacrificed everything for our great country. And our goal here is to sell 500 cases of coffee, representing one for each mile. With along the trek, we have various checkpoints throughout the day, start points and end points. Through that, we're connecting with police chiefs and fire chiefs as well to talk about veteran issues in their communities, how we can better assist through our development of our veteran crisis response team. And so the checkpoints will be police stations, fire stations, VFWs, American Legions, churches, and local businesses who've sponsored the trek along the route as well. So trying to do as much connection as we can through these communities and connect with more veterans and their families and businesses along the route.
I think I saw you're going to kick off May 1st and be at Royal Oaks Memorial Day Parade at the end of the month. How much logistics goes into all of this, let alone, walking through weather and everything else?
Well, last year was just an idea of a great friend of mine. I was like, I want to go and do something and not just talk about it. There's no perfect timing. I just went and did it. And I threw it together in like 3 weeks. But at this point, doing the 500 miles in 25, I feel like a logistics manager. It's very humbling. A lot of coordination, but I feel very humbled and blessed to, being able to do this type of thing and creating, having that task and purpose. And it's a heavy schedule. I can't say anything else, but very, very lots of scheduling.
Well, and
lots of moving parts.
Yeah. I mean, again, you're really starting and walking kind of the western side of the peninsula, the lower peninsula of the state of Michigan, and then you got to cut over east to work your way back to Royal Oak. I can't quite tell on the map I'm looking at where you finally turn to the east, but you've got to have something lined up for sort of every day, every night, where you stopping and where you going next.
Yep. So kind of the main cities that we're going through are starting in St. Ignace. We're going to Mackinac Island to Mackinac City, Mackinac City to Traverse City, Traverse City to Grand Rapids to Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo to Lansing
Lansing to Chelsea, Chelsea to Milford, Milford to Northville, and Northville into Royal Oak's annual Memorial Day Parade.
So if people are along that line, how do they keep track of you and maybe meet up with you when you're by their city?
That's a great question. So this year, we're actually going to have a live tracker on me this year so people can follow along the website. The tracker, I think it's going to update every I believe 10 to 15 minutes as we progress through our route. Everybody's enjoyed, welcome to come out and join in doing parts or meet us at checkpoints or, trek with me, whatever works best for them. So that's kind of how we can be tracked this year as we go throughout the route.
And the goal here is to raise awareness, but also raise funds for these programs that you're talking about, which is the regenerative medicine and the crisis team for veterans. And there's a way for people to sponsor at different levels, all the way down to $30, up to $1,000 of sponsorship. Talk to us a little bit about the sponsors.
Yeah, so there are 3 different tiers. Our goal, like I said, is to sell 500 cases of coffee, a tier 1 sponsorship. There's 4 different points of, we're going to have a Super Duty truck and a 38-foot trailer, kind of like a safety vehicle, where we're going to actually have some of the regenerative medicine technology in so I can be treated, and then where I can sleep at night, but also to serve coffee out of. Along these checkpoints, they can have branding on the trailer. They can do different social media posts daily, website inclusion, newsletter, and 2 cases of coffee. Our tier 2 is around the $300 mark. That's a case of coffee, and they get the social media, website, newsletter, and all that stuff. And then our 3rd tier is a $30 memorial sponsorship where a family member can submit a name and photo of a fallen warrior, and then also receive a bag of our premium Arabica coffee. So, like I said, one of the biggest things is learning through this is you can't just go out asking people for money. And that's kind of another premise why we spent months developing the perfect roast of coffee, delivering a premium product where people want to buy and enjoy and continue buying, but also supporting, our mission.
Yeah, it's one thing to write a check and then forget it. It's another every day to take out a couple of scoops and think what's behind the mission on this great coffee that I'm serving. So I like that a lot. If people are interested in learning more and maybe supporting this upcoming May trek of 500 miles, what's the best place for them to go to?
They can contact our phone number, which is 248-722-9090, or email us at miller@trekforvetscoffee.com.
And that'll get them into a spot where they can make donations or sponsorships levels, I take it?
Yes, sir. That'll create the conversation where we can have those conversations, how they want to sponsor, what they're thinking, and really curtail it to them individually.
Well, there's a lot here to like, and there's a lot in your story that brought you to this point in taking on this mission. So we want to be supportive of it and supportive of our friends at nvbdc.org and get this promoted out, which we will do, Lawrence. Maybe we'll make some arrangements to talk to you along the way or catch up to you when you get more local in the Chelsea and Northville areas. So I hope you're well rested at this point. Are you taking care of your body to be able to pull this off?
Yeah, I actually spend 2 to 3 hours a day training in rehab just to get my body ready for this. So there's been a lot of preparation for this, I might add.
Well, we're really glad that you could spend some time today with Veterans Radio, update them on what you're doing and what the Trek for Vets Coffee is all about. As I said, you can go to the website trekforvetscoffee.com. Learn more. The phone number's there, the way to get in contact with Lawrence Miller as well. Lawrence, good luck on this effort, and we hope to keep promoting it as you move along.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your time.
Well, he's got 25 days to Trek for Vets. Go to his website, trekforvets.com. Let's have a few words from our sponsor, and we'll get into the next interesting story about the changes in a Navy officer's life.
Military veterans touch everyone's life. I'm guessing right now you're thinking of a veteran, a close friend, relative. Maybe it's you. Even the toughest of us sometimes need help, but don't know where to turn for support. You don't need special training to help a veteran in your life. We can all help someone going through a difficult time. Learn how you can be there for veterans. Visit veteranscrisisline.net. veteranscrisisline.net. A message from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
If you have a VA claim denied by the Board of Veterans Appeals, contact Legal Help for Veterans at 1-800-693-4800. They're experts in handling cases before the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. Their number again, 1-800-693-4800.
We want to welcome to Veterans Radio today, Elliot James Rattner, a Navy veteran. Elliot, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Let's start with this. How did a nice Michigan State University grad end up in the Navy?
Well, I graduated in 2012 into a recession, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So I actually joined the Navy for the linguist position. I was like, oh, wow, they'll pay me to learn a language. I'm such a huge language nerd. I was very excited. I shipped out November after I graduated, and
was your undergraduate in linguistics or in Arabic? What was that kind of a pathway?
So actually, I was a psych major, as is everybody who doesn't know what they want to do with their life. I was a psych major, but I received a scholarship to study Korean through MSU, and I thought that when I went to the Navy, I'd continue doing Korean, but they offered me Arabic, and I couldn't pass up a chance to learn something completely new. So
now did you go into the Navy as an officer, or were you enlisted?
I was enlisted at first. I enlisted as an E3 because I had college. And right after boot camp, they sent us to Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California, which is where they do all of the linguist training.
And how long is that program? I don't think as I said, I don't think we've talked to anybody who's been in that program on Veterans Radio, but it always shows up in the novels that various people write about spies and nefarious activities. So tell us a little bit about what it's like to be at that Defense Linguistics Academy almost.
So first off, it's beautiful because it's in Monterey, California. But as an E3, it's also impossible to live off of an E3 salary because it's Monterey, California.
Right.
But the programming and the amount of time that you're there actually depends on what language you're going there to learn. Arabic is a year and a half. So,
and I assume there's sort of like proficiency, you got to keep is it every 3 months or 6 months, you got to be showing progression towards fluency. Is that how that works? And if you don't, you go peel potatoes or something?
Almost exactly, except not necessarily every 3 months. So we would have unit and tests, but at the end of the program where you're told, you need to be at least at a working proficiency in a year and a half, or you're going to the fleet undesignated, basically. So it's a fire hose, right? You're learning a language at a fire hose pace, and then you have your fluency test at the end of your your language course, however long it is, and you end up doing a yearly proficiency test.
At the start of a program like this, that's a year and a half, how many folks start the program and how many actually finish the program for, say, Arabic?
Oh gosh, I mean, I don't have specific numbers, but I know we lost probably 6 people in our class, and oh gosh,
What did your class
across
start with?
probably in the 30s, maybe
Uh,
less.
so,
They're small classes so that you can get the most out of um,
so that's kind of a 20% washout rate. So again,
yeah, it's very high.
yeah, it doesn't surprise me at
It's
all.
not buds, but
Yeah, right, right. So, okay, you pass through the Arabic linguistics course. You're proficient. Now, what's the Navy do with you?
well, they sent me down to Georgia.
Where all the Arabic speakers are. No, why did you go to
Right.
why did you go to Georgia? And what is there a base there that you go to, or is it now you're kind of working in a different segment of naval intelligence or something?
So it is naval intelligence. It's through do a lot of work through the NSA. I can't really talk,
Sure.
about the work that we do there, but I ended up working kind of you know, administrative control under the Navy, and then operational control was under the National Security Agency, first in Georgia and then up in DC.
So it's somewhere on this path. Now you're in a couple of years or more, probably more. You get transferred up to DC.
Yeah, so first I was transferred to um, Fort Meade, Maryland, and then um, I was there until I commissioned and moved to DC.
And again, the work you're doing is as a linguist, you're either reading documents or listening to things and translating them. Uh, and are you at this point still working kind of hand in glove between the Navy and the NSA, or are you detailed off somewhere else?
So at this time, I'm still, um, under uh, dual control.
That's interesting. Again, I don't think we ever, unless you're in that position, you never get to peek under the tent. So I'm sure veteran radio listeners would like me to ask more questions that would peek under the tent, but also could get us in trouble with the NSA.
Right, we
I have no
no
desire to do
specifics.
that. I have no desire to do that. So as you're going through this, is the because you re-enlisted, right? I mean, the Navy's kind of hidden the marks for you. Tell us a little bit about again this MSU student with a psychology degree. Why do you re-enlist?
I loved the Navy. I felt really directionless before, and I I felt kind of like the underdog. I feel like a lot of people in my life, when I said that I was joining the Navy, I think a lot of people were like, Psh,
You're not gonna make it,
you're not gonna
kid.
like it, you're not gonna make it. And I absolutely thrived in the military. I really embraced, I mean, everything about it. You will never be able to experience anything like the military without being in the military. I mean, it's like learning a new culture. It's learning a new language, but
Yeah, absolutely.
it's crazy.
I was on ships, so I have some appreciation for sort of the bonds that you make with folks when you're all in miserable conditions and the storm's going and the food's horrible. And you haven't had, back in my day, you didn't have mail for a month. Was part of this is the linguistics uh, units, are these pretty tight, almost insular groups?
They are it's a very small community. Um, and so the people that you work with, you're probably going to be working with most of your career. Uh, I it's interesting because a lot of linguists don't end up deploying a lot because of our dual nature. Um, of course, there are people that do direct support operations, but I was mostly shore duty as a linguist.
Yeah, I mean, that specialty lends itself to that as compared to being on a ship, obviously. Um, so you do this, I think you said, for about 10 years.
Yes, sir.
Is that two or more reenlistments?
I re-enlisted in 2016 and then 20 oh gosh. It was two re-enlistments, but I don't remember what the second one
Well,
was.
I'm trying to get to the
Wait,
point.
no, I think it was only one because I think I was coming up for a re-enlistment.
Because I'm trying to get to the point where you decide I'm going to stay in and go to night school. Now we haven't talked about this yet, but that's where you get to, right? You're still in the Navy, enlisted, being a linguist, and you decide to go to night school. Do I have that right?
Yes.
And
So
and what in the world made you think you want to go to law school?
that's a very complicated question. I I mean I grew up I mean you know my dad, so my dad is an amazing attorney and he was always so passionate about the law and you could just see that he loved what he was doing. And I loved the Navy, but and I loved being a linguist, but I I saw what he was doing and how he was helping people, and I wanted to be able to help people. As a linguist, it's interesting because number one, you can't come home at the end of the day and tell your family what you've been doing.
True, true.
The things that you are doing, you're so far removed from the end result that it's hard to feel like you've achieved anything. And the other thing was when I was starting to go to law school, it was 2018 that I started. Um, there were a lot of civil rights movements and big issues coming up that um, that I wanted to be a part of and wanted to make a difference in. And I thought that, the best way to make an impact and to help promote change, positive change, was through being a lawyer.
So it's a real commitment to go to law school for anybody. And try to go as you put your hands in your face, and it's agonizing to think about those first year or two. But to do it while you've got a full-time job. Now, fortunately, you have shore duty, so you can kind of pull this off. But I don't think a lot of people realize that education is something military service supports, expects, whether it's professional education or outside here, you're going to change radically your career. But talk a little bit about those challenges to be both a full-time Navy linguist and then taking on the burden of law school.
Absolutely. So I was very lucky that the shop I was in, we call um the places you work, your direct
Yeah,
workplace shop.
yeah.
I don't know if that's something that needs explained, but your shop, my shop at the time was not um it was not shift work, so it was pretty consistent day schedule, which was very nice. And I had a very supportive commanding officer. My chain of command knew that, this was my goal, and I was applying at the time for the JAG Corps in process procurement program. Basically, the program enlisted to officer It is the holy grail of programs. The acceptance rate is less than Harvard Law. Um, it is basically, you apply, you get selected, you go to law school full time while you're, in civilian clothes. You just have to show up for PT, um, stuff like that, and then you get commissioned directly after that. However, I did not get picked up the first three times I applied because, as I said, it's easier to get into Harvard Law than get picked up
Well,
for the
and
program.
that's part of the story here is that you don't give up. You keep moving forward, and it's pretty unusual for an enlisted guy to move through that eye of the needle and come out the other side as an officer uh, because you have all this enlisted time and experience. So, was third time the charm or the fourth time the charm?
Fourth time was the charm. Um, I there was so the year before I got selected, I was going to put in a request, but at that time there was the first Trump trans ban, and I know we'll get to that later, but I wasn't sure if I'd be able to stay in at that time, so I didn't apply the year before I got selected. Um, and we can,
So let's get through graduation. You graduate now. Now what's the Navy do to you?
well, to backtrack just a little bit, as I was in law school, I was working in Odenton, Maryland. I was living in Glen Burnie and I was going to school in Baltimore, so I lived kind of equidistant between them, and it was in person until COVID. Um, so my command had to be very supportive of, okay, they moved me to admin. I ended up being the commanding officer's administrative assistant, so that I could do that work and also work on my law school, and that was incredible. And of course, I had the GI Bill to put me through. So, thank you, Navy, for my law degree and not being
Exactly. Well, I used
swallowed
to
in
yeah,
debt.
build a bit mine back in the 80s, I guess. So same story. Glad to have it available.
Yeah, so it was actually like 2 months before I graduated that I got the call that I had finally been picked up for the JAG Corps. And I cannot explain the sound that came out of my mouth, but it was one of the happiest days I've ever had. I was so excited.
Yeah, because you've gone through all that pain of law school, and the bar's going to come, but all that pain of law school, and you don't know if you're going to go back to being a linguist or whether or not you're going to get into the JAG course. So that had to be just overwhelming and a powerful relief that now I know the path forward.
Absolutely. And boy, do I feel silly now thinking law school was the hard part.
Well, you get into the JAG Corps, you get commissioned as a lieutenant. This is about 2022
Yes.
that you're commissioned and you're in JAG and
2023, January of 2023, because I had to pass the bar before I was able to commission.
okay.
Um, and I had wrangled this sort of, I wouldn't say deal with my triad, but I had combed through a bunch of instructions and found that if there is a program that benefits the Navy, you can be put on administrative leave for up to a certain amount of days, paid administrative leave. And so I was able to negotiate how my studying for the bar would apply as administrative leave. So I think it might not have worked if my triad was not so supportive, but I
Yeah,
was able
yeah,
to
and
take.
every law student on the way to the bar takes 60, 90 days. You just study, and you only want to take it once, and it's the worst thing in the world. So
Is the
you
worst thing
get
in the
through
world.
that, you get commissioned, you're a lieutenant in JAG. What do they have you do to begin with, and where do they say they're going to send you before you end up separating in I think it was January of 2025. So what do you do in that window of time?
So I actually separated in April of 25.
Oh, okay.
But I when I first got commissioned, they sent us to Officer Development School in Newport, which cannot compare to the hell they put the OCS kids through, but I still remember some of my classmates being like, "This is so hard. This is the worst thing ever." And I'm like, "You're not getting
Well,
pepper sprayed. You're
yeah,
not
let me tell you
getting
about it. You're not being gassed. You're not
you
being
don't
sent
have
to the
the
fire chamber.
you don't
Yeah.
have to do the peanut butter shot. You guys are living the life." Um, but yeah, so I went through that and then I went back to DC. I got orders to the Navy Yard in DC, which was the place that I really wanted to be. I had done a couple months as an administrative assistant at the Navy Yard in the legal office. Um, I think in 2017 when I was applying for the JAG Corps. Um, and so I wanted it to be kind of full circle. I wanted that to be the first place that I was stationed, and I was very blessed to have that opportunity. I came back for a couple months between Officer Development School and the Naval Justice School, and we got a wonderful apartment. And then we went to Naval Justice School for 11 weeks up in Newport again.
So there's I keep forgetting how many training programs they always send you to before they turn you loose. Um, but let's I'm going to change the dynamic here a little bit because along this way, you have a major transition in your life because you enter the Navy as a woman, and by the time you get to the JAG Corps, you're a trans man. Do I have that time frame about right?
Yes, so I I came out as transgender in 2020. Um, and that was right around the time that the first Trump administration had um, put out a ban on transgender people um, joining the service and seeking any sort of medical assistance in transitioning if they hadn't already started. It was originally going to be a full ban, but uh, the lawsuits at that time were able to um, kind of factor in this grandfather clause that protected people that were already openly serving. And I was
So
not.
that's what I was going to say. Your transition was sort of later than that. So walk us through how that worked and how it impacted your naval career. That's a big question, I realize.
It is a big question, but I think it actually has a very wonderful answer that also later, ends tragically, but gets better. It's hard to say because, all right, I came out in 2020. I had struggled with a lot of issues that I, a lot of, I had a lot of mental health issues that I did not realize were related to crippling dysphoria, the misalignment. Uh, it's really, you can't understand it unless you have it. And I think that's where a lot of people, um, you know, a lot of people might think that it is a mental illness in of itself, and it's not. But you wouldn't know what it feels like to be incongruent with yourself if you didn't have it. And I remember once I finally came out to myself, I knew when I was 12, I came out, did not get a lot of support at that time. And so I kind of was like, oh, well, just kidding. I guess that was silly of me to think. Um, and so fast forward to this point, I come out, I finally feel like myself, but I'm also having to hide myself from work. Um,
You've been
and
in the Navy for 8 years at that point or so.
yes, about 8 years, and really loved being in the Navy. I was in law school. I was in my second year, and I was able to socially transition in law school with a lot of support. The people that did know at the time in the military were also very supportive. And at this time, I had applied twice to the JAG Corps and failed. Well, not failed, I just wasn't accepted, right? It felt like a failure to me. But, and then I didn't apply that year because 2020 because I didn't if I wasn't going to be able to transition, I couldn't stay in. And so fast forward to I think it was 21 January 21, one of the first executive orders that then President Biden had put out was allowed open service for transgender individuals. And I remember I was sitting at my desk in Maryland and just sobbed. I was so happy. And I was afraid at the time that as I was coming out to people in the Navy that they would be unsupportive or hateful or judgmental. Um, a lot of trans people face that, but my experience, I had a lot of love and support from the people in the military, not just my peers, but my leadership. Um, I ended up, after being true to myself, after transitioning, I got picked up for the JAG Corps. I became as myself too. I was openly transgender in the application process. I was picked up with them knowing I actually became the first openly transgender individual to be commissioned to the Navy JAG Corps. And of course, openly is the key word.
Sure, sure.
And it was such an honor, and it felt like the timing was perfect that, I had found myself and then I had gotten my goal.
Well, and part of the story is I think there's an image that everybody in the military is a bunch of blah blah blah, and they would not be supportive. But you'd proven yourself up. This was about whether or not the guy could do the job.
Yeah.
And you'd proven to your peers and your command you could do the job, and that seemed to be maybe the critical issue, really.
Yeah. And have always I was always really in love with the fitness program through the Navy. I was a assistant command fitness leader for almost my entire career, and then when I commissioned as a JAG, I became the command fitness leader. Held one of the highest, physical fitness scores. I was the head of the suicide prevention program, the sexual assault prevention program. I had my fingers in all these things and made sure that I was performing at the highest caliber that I could. Um, I feel like people who are in a minority group always feel that pressure that they have to outperform their peers just to get the same amount of respect. But I think it also shows that not only are trans service members capable of doing, the bare minimum standards for service, but can actually surpass that and be operating at the highest level.
You can really tell that Lieutenant Rattner loved his naval career. I do a longer interview with him on our podcast, which you can find on all your regular platforms. Put in, quote, Veterans Radio, close quote, quote, Elliot Rattner, close quote, and you'll find it. And he talks about the second Trump administration, what was going on, and how it became clear that if he didn't get out, he was going to cause damage to his commanders and others, because there was a lot of pressure on command to identify and get trans individuals out of the military. But clearly he loved his service in the military, and think this is kind of a special interview to bring to you. We all can have our opinions, but I think he pointed out at the end that minorities of any stripe, in this instance trans, a lot of them work extra hard to prove up that they are more than worthy to be in these positions. So, two interesting stories, one on trekking through Michigan to raise funds for veterans, Larry Miller at Trek for Vets. Their coffee's available to help support them, and to learn about this lawyer's transition and his military career. So we always want to thank our sponsors again at the end. We can't do it without them. We've been on the air for 20 years, and it's always a little bit of a financial struggle to pull it off, but we do. So we appreciate all of that support. Dale will be back next time. I'm Jim Fossone. And until next time on Veterans Radio, you are dismissed.